The next team is our South African team, Imperial Vantage. Give them a hand.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. We are the Imperial Vantage. I am Susanna, and this is Michael and Rowen. Today's presentation will address the problems faced by VW. Based on an impact and urgency analysis, we have identified the following order of prioritization: the e-mobility, followed by the Paris Accord and environmental legislation, strategy, structure, and cost optimization, then the product portfolio rationalization, and lastly, an ethical issue. So let's kick off with our first priority, which is the procurement of EVBs. Tenders received from 4 suppliers are relatively similar. The differentiating factors are pricing and quality, suggesting that Panasonic should be the supplier of choice. Although, as Panasonic already manufactures batteries specifically from Tesla, buying EVBs from them would not give VW the competitive edge. VW must compete on other aspects of the vehicles, such as design and quality, or create a new and improved battery. Our decision matrix analysis suggests that the best development alternative is either partnering or setting up a joint venture with Panasonic. Both these options eliminate the risk of the break clauses and would allow for the possible creation of new battery technology. A partnership will enhance competitive advantage, allow for the sharing of costs and risk, but does not create new competencies. A joint venture requires joint control from both parties, risk and capital commitment are shared, and it allows for the creation of new competencies. We recommend VW propose a joint venture to Panasonic. This will allow for the development of battery technology as a new core competency, being an objective of VW, which will help create a new competitive advantage. In order to maximize the joint venture's potential, VW must pay attention to the relationship between VW and Panasonic. Both parties need to identify systems and procedures that they need for their day-to-day operations that preserve the strategic intent and balance of power. Furthermore, both parties need to establish at the onset how to handle disputes and how the project should end. In the short term, VW should acquire these batteries from Panasonic until an agreement can be arranged. Rowen will now address priority 2.
Thanks, Susanna. Okay, so with facing regulation change, with facing environmental regulations and social culture now favoring an electric shift, the pressures to improve the sustainability of our products have increased, but are also questioning traditional manufacturing methods. And therefore, the topic of discussion is the MEB. The MEB will aid in regulation changes, and that's going to be purposed through either option 1, modifying our current range of engines, or manufacturing electric vehicle engines which is regarded as option 3. These options will be further discussed with the inclusion of option 2, where no action will be taken. As per a quantitative analysis, we have ranked the 3 options based on their relevant MPVs, and at ranking 1, we have modification. Building up the MEB will largely be purposed through modifying our volume range engines, and this leaves our higher end ranges at risk of not meeting regulation thresholds and triggering fines of 600 million each year. This is not a sustainable option, as it demonstrates a drift from both strategy and good business practice, as the increased sales would be achieved through discounting high carbon emitting vehicles in African countries. At ranking 2, we have no action. The emission scandal sparked the release of the Together Strategy 2025, and this laid the cornerstone to both sustainable mobility and brand repair. Although the course of no action is seen to be financially feasible, it provides no development towards our current strategy and tarnishes our reputation. Furthermore, this option will still incur fines of 600 million each year. At ranking 3, we have manufacturing of the electric vehicle engines. The building of the MEB will be largely used to manufacture the electric vehicle engines, and although this is not seen as financially feasible, as we see the negative NPV, through standardizing the use of the MEB throughout the group, this will increase efficiency levels and reduce cost. Furthermore, real options should be considered with this initiative. In considering the above, we recommend option 3. We recommend option 3. Although option 3 is not considered financially feasible, although option 2 is not considered financially feasible. The choice of option 3, sorry about that. The choice of option 3 is not considered financially feasible, but if we look at the similar effects of both Tesla and Amazon, shareholder value it's not affected shareholder value. It's not affected shareholder value as your shareholders are favoring sustainable environmental business models than your traditionally profitable business models. Thank you. I'll now hand you over back to Susanna.
Okay. Priority 3 addresses the strategy, structure, and cost optimization. Dr. Diaz is questioning the validity of the volume range. He has also suggested significantly reducing costs if certain functional units are centralized. The volume range is a crucial part of e-mobility and is necessary for our strategy since many of the planned future electric vehicles are part of this range. Getting rid of this range not only removes the platform on which VW was built, but goes against the future strategy of the group. This segment has high research and fixed costs due to the large volume of capital expenditure. These expenses are necessary for future profitability and would result in generating competitive advantage in the future. Our operating margin is expected to increase to 6.75% using our 2018 forecast. Although the 6.75% meets your target, this is because of an increase in sales and not because of cost control. The centralization is expected to increase our margins to 8.2%. Although the numerical factors favor the centralization, other qualitative factors need to be considered. There is a loss in speed to decision making, which is crucial for a volatile ecosystem. Also, it is difficult to communicate managerial decisions to different operating levels in the management hierarchy if the centralizations go ahead. Therefore, we recommend to keep the volume range as it is a critical part of our future strategy. We also recommend do not centralize these functional units because it will result in a loss of autonomy due to VW being geographically diverse. Mike will now address priority 4.
Thank you, Susanna. 2 strategy proposals have been put forth to identify profitability concerns within the 3 new developed categories and more specifically within the volume range. The first proposal is a price reduction in the volume range for key emerging markets. This requires careful consideration for a market that is driven by high volumes and low margins. A reduction in price would warrant itself if the price elasticity of demand is elastic, for which small adjustments in price aids larger adjustments in volume, and furthermore such that direct factory overheads are fixed. An alternative to price reduction is the optimization of direct factory overheads. The use of artificial intelligence in the manufacturing business where time, precision, and accuracy to cost control is critical in order to identify cost optimizing opportunities. Moving on to the second proposal of identifying loss-making models and ceasing production. This furthermore requires extended investigation. Both business tools and the use of AI will assist with this. Individually, a model may be loss-making yet have a high contribution to fixed costs. Seizing such models will cause fixed costs to be transferred onto other profitable models, therefore reducing their margins. However, models with a low contribution to fixed costs may invite discontinuation. We also need to consider the product portfolio and customer life cycles. For example, if entry-level models are used to win over brand loyalty, then rationalizing such models will impact long-term sales growth of other profitable models. We recommend further investigation both internally and externally before such rationalized decisions can be made. Moving on to the ethical concern about sourcing cobalt in the DRC through artisanal mining. The choice of VW to deal with artisanal miners over mining giants raises an ethical concern due to the nature of the way in which artisanal miners conduct their operations. However, it significantly boosts the GDP of its own and neighboring countries while creating jobs in resource-rich East African republics. There are very few laws and regulations, and it seeks to exploit human capital in exchange for highly demanded minerals. With very few regulations in place and insufficient health and safety practices, it's also the cheapest alternative for VW. And I'll now hand you over to Rowen, who will quickly conclude.
Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen. That was a very insightful presentation. I just want to clarify two things from you. In terms of your first recommendation to us, yes, on the Paris Accord and the environmental legislation, right? You advise us to go with option 3, which is to design, test, and replace the MEB. But now you tell us that is not visible. So I'm asking myself as a board member, if you're going to advise us to go with an option, but already you're saying it's not visible, then what are you exactly saying to us? Is it the right way to go, or is it not the right way to go? If you can clarify that for me. Then you tell us on the product portfolio rationalization that we should further investigate the drivers of loss-making models. I really thought you would come and you really would tell us about that and give us insights into those loss-making models and what we should do about them. Thank you.
Just to address the negative NPV, it's definitely worth a lot. It's definitely worth loss making in this situation, as it will solidify our market position. So as it will solidify our market position. With electrical vehicles still being quite new to the market and they're obviously quite niche, the MEB will introduce a lot of new old competencies and new competencies with the manufacturing of our electric vehicles, and that's going to increase efficiencies. And with collaborative synergies within our MEB group, we can spread those costs well over there. So just because it's not profit making at the moment doesn't mean it won't be profit making within the future.
The second one has to do with identifying the loss-making models and ceasing production. You wanted Axel. Well, it is quite a bold statement to be able to do that, considering in our speech that we said that what happens to those fixed costs attached to those loss-making models, where do they go? Well, they might be transferred onto other profitable models. We have to consider whether the loss-making in those models is greater or less than our fixed cost and whether we should seize them or not. So it's a bold statement. We just came up with that recommendation.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Just a comment. I assume that when you're doing an NPV, you consider all these scenarios, right? So you should have been considering also what is going to be the benefits on the NPV. Just kind of a comment on that. My question is more about the cost optimization. I really like how you guys provided, sorry, gentlemen and lady, how you provide already the scenarios of the benefit. And what I don't understand, and I would like to get clarification from you, you see like it's going to be around 2% benefit on profit. Why are you still deciding not to do so? I mean, we're as a company, we need to provide dividends for our shareholders, we need to provide a profit, increase of profit, we have a diesel gate, we have a lot of attention and pressure, and you're bringing an option that, potential 2% savings that can go to the bottom line, but your recommendation is not to go for it. Can you please clarify for me?
Sorry, I just want to clarify your question. You're talking about the 2% with the centralization?
Yeah, so the centralization increases expected operation margin from 6.75 to 8.2. So it's increased margin,
Okay.
yeah.
I get you now. So we went with our recommendation because of qualitative reasoning, because the units that you want to centralize is like marketing, procurement, and human resources. So we thought that we could assess all those different functions as different cost centers. So then each manager would be responsible for their own control over their certain functions. It would be easier to identify where the issues are, because take example for marketing, all different countries have different cultures. What marketing will work in Europe is not going to work in the Middle East.
I totally get it.
Yes.
But that should be taken in consideration on a change management approach, right?
Yeah.
But you're coming to a board presenting that potentially you're going to get 2% benefit, and you're showing, okay, if you do these changes, you're going to get 2% benefit. But we decided not to do so because we believe that we don't have enough change management skills, is basically what you're saying.
But if you if you use the decentralization in the future, there's a possible, it's possible that you're going to save more than the 2%. So for now, just based on the 2018 budget, based on our current sales, that's where we got that 2% from. That was mostly due to the qualitative factors of it.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want some clarification, and it relates to the batteries. You proposed a joint venture with
Yes.
Panasonic.
Yes.
Now, firstly, why would Tesla allow it? Secondly, if one look from a perspective that you have a competitive advantage, not a competitive advantage because it's the same supplier as your competitor. The previous issue that I raised in terms of sabotage and all the risk about that, how are you going to get the joint venture off the ground with the supplier?
So what would make Panasonic have a joint venture with us?
Why? Because firstly, Tesla will prevent it because they say, or Tesla will say, anything you develop, we want to utilize as well. So you're going to put yourself in a disadvantage through the process.
Okay, so at the moment, Tesla is experiencing slight problems with Panasonic because of Panasonic cannot make enough batteries to supply for the model, the electric vehicle model. So at the moment, Panasonic is looking for other suppliers, especially in China. So at the moment, Panasonic and VW, Panasonic is highly reliant on Tesla. So if Tesla moves away, then Panasonic is just like left in the lurch now because most of the electric vehicle batteries are going to Tesla. So now Tesla is going to find another supplier in China. Also, Panasonic is also considering a joint venture with Toyota for another electric battery. So that means they're open to joint ventures from other companies because that deal is not done yet.
Maybe just a comment. You're asking the board to go with a proposal that's not finalized, and any of those solutions that you give may not come through. It's
So-
just a comment. You don't have to respond.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So, as you've probably noticed, my questions tend to go a bit off base. Because I'm interested to, you've done the case study, done the report, I would like to understand your thinking and your depth of thinking into this problem. So what are the ethical issues that you foresee following a centralization strategy? If you were to centralize, what are the ethical issues you foresee? What as a board should we be aware of and think about?
Okay, so with the centralization, you're going to cut costs from human resources and salaries and wages. That's the main ethical issue there, because you can't just cut salaries and wages because people are highly reliant on this. And then another question is, how would you cut salary and wages? Would you fire staff or?
Well, I was going to ask, are
Yeah.
you cutting salaries or are you cutting staff? What would centralization really, that cost saving comes in paying people less or having less people?
From the information you gave us, you just said cut salaries and wages and human resources. You didn't specify where you would want to cut salaries and wages.
I'm interested in what your opinion is.
Well, you can't just fire people. There's procedures you have to go to. You can't just lay off people because of the ethical implications. And in different countries, it will be kind of illegal to do so. And cutting salaries, you sign contracts. When an employer signs contracts with you, their salaries are on there. So you can't just lower that because there's legal consequences of that.
Okay. I had a similar question to Dion about the batteries. I just want to check. Tesla is getting paid right now. Panasonic, sorry, is getting paid right now. So they're producing batteries, they're getting paid. Why would they want to joint venture at all? Why take on Why would they want to do it? I get what Tesla would block it.
Because of the over-reliance on their relationship with Tesla. That would be the main reason why they would want to partner with Panasonic. Partner with VW.
Okay, so in other words, not putting all the eggs in
Yes,
one basket.
yes, because now if they lose Tesla,
Got
they're
it.
losing all that income.
Okay, thank you very much.